Casablanca. This is the first episode of the Halloween season. There will be 5 episodes for this. There'll be one every week for the month of October. And for the first one, I am covering Alvin and the Chipmunks Meet Frankenstein. Yeah, that's probably not what you were expecting when I said I have some Halloween movies. I mean, it's still a Halloween movie. It's just when I was telling some of my friends, I was like, "Hey, try to guess what movies I'm going to do," and they're like, "Exorcist." And I'm like, think the other side of the Halloween spectrum. It's not that serious. So, Alvin and the Chipmunks Meet Frankenstein. It's a 1999 animated film directed by Kathi Castillo and was written by John Loy. And it was starring Ross Bagdasarian Jr. and Janice Karman and Frank Welker. Frank Welker is like a legend in the voice acting world. Something that's interesting looking at the voice cast is that there's only a few voice actors. In fact, Ross Bagdasarian, I'm not going to even try to pronounce that thing. I'm just saying Ross from now on. He voiced Alvin, Simon, and Dave. Janice Karman voiced Theodore. Michael Bell, he voiced Dr. Frankenstein and Person in Mob and Delivery Man. Frank Welker did Frankie, which is the Frankenstein monster. Man dressed up as Frankenstein, Sammy Squirrel, and movie director. Jim Meskimen voiced Mr. Yes Man, Person in Mob, Boy Number 2, and Police Officer Number 2. Dee Bradley Baker voiced Tour Guide Phil and Person in Mob. Okay, actually, most of these are Person in Mob, so I'm just going to skip that from now on. Mary Kay Bergman voiced Miss Miller, Mother at Theme Park, Little Boy, Boy Number 1. Like, there is a distinction there. Female bouncer, Kevin Michael Richard. Oh, I didn't hit an enter there. I didn't hit enter. Kevin Michael Richardson was as Bud Wiley. Here's the actor at the end. Man with camera, male bouncer, security guard, Susan Boyd as the police officer number 1, and mother at the playground, and Olivia de Hanloch. So, there's a few people in here, but like most of them played multiple people, so like all the voices in here are just a few people, and it's crazy, like the voice range. I mean, it makes sense for like 2 of the Chipmunks are voiced by the same person, and they also voiced Dave. It kind of makes sense because with the Chipmunks voice, you can basically do whatever you want. It's pitched up, and then you can pitch it differently to do the 2 different ones, because the 3 Chipmunks each have a distinctive voice. And yeah, and then it makes sense that they can also go on to do Dave, who just has a normal voice. So I just thought that was kind of interesting how they just like the voice rate, like the talent range of all these people, and why it's important to to cast voice actors in voice actor roles. I know it's like a cliche to complain about it, but all these modern animated movies, like Super Mario Brothers, casting like A-list Hollywood stars, there are very talented voice actors out there, and I know it's been done to death. I know it's been criticized to death, and the voice cast of the Super Mario Brothers movie did a great job, especially Jack Black. But imagine if they had like voice actors playing that role. And I know the reason they do it. It's like, oh, Chris Pratt's in this movie. And it's like all these people that we know. But, like, Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna get off of that. So I grew up with this movie, like, literally. I saw this movie all the time. Like, it wasn't even just a Halloween movie. Like, I actually didn't even consider it a Halloween movie because I watched it all the time, year round. So, like, it was always there. There's actually a second one called Alvin and the Chipmunks Meet the Wolfman, but I've never seen it. And that one's even harder to come across. Oh, this is the one that I've been talking about, that I was going to, that I ended up buying instead of the last one. So, like, this was, like, the only copy I could find. It was on Amazon, and it was one of those see other options, because there was DVD options, but all of them were unavailable. But this one entry, whatever, had the button to see other options, and there was only one option, and it was from like a Goodwill in Missouri or something, and I was like, I'll take it. It was only like $8. I'm like, do they not realize what they have? I mean, granted, it's like, it's more like a nostalgic value to me. So, like, if I hadn't grown up with it, I'd be like, really? Alvin and the Chipmunks? Okay. But I guess it's the same thing, like, with the Wolfman one. Like, I've never seen that, so it's not nostalgic to me, so I wouldn't seek that one out. However, I do want to see it. I haven't seen it, and I want to. I did see one of the options was a double feature with both, but of course that one was unavailable. That's the one I wanted, because then I would have both, and I could finally see the Wolfman one for the first time. But maybe someday. Anyway, so the premise of this is the Alvin and the Chipmunks have a they perform at this, basically a fictionalized version of Universal Pictures Studios theme park thing, and they have this show that they perform all the time. And there's another attraction there, Frankenstein's castle, and they have, like I said when I was reading the cast, there was a person in a Frankenstein costume going around scaring people, but at the beginning of the film, he gets fired because he trips and his head falls off, and then there's this mother. The film literally opens with a Karen. This film was in 1999. Like, the mother's like such a Karen. Like, every time you see her, she's only in like the first 10 minutes of the film, and like every time you see her, she's complaining about something, and she's like, I'm watching this film and I'm thinking, they put a Karen in here before Karens are really a thing. But yeah, so they replace him with the actual Dr. Frankenstein unknowingly. They even he even says, like, it's like, how did he know? Like, I don't even remember the exact wording, but like, the Dr. Frankenstein was like, how foolish of him to hire the real Dr. Frankenstein, or something like that. And so the film opens with a Karen. The actual opening of the film, it's a black and white segment it shows basically the end of the movie Frankenstein, except with a different ending. It doesn't end with, the death of the characters. Frankenstein the monster makes it into the castle, and Dr. Frankenstein comes out and talks to the crowd, and it was like, what, you think I am gathering corpses to make a human of my own and bring them to life? And the crowd's like, we just thought that yeah. And then they leave, and that's it. And I actually kind of like that. It's funny. And then it cuts to, I don't know if it's cuts to modern day, or if it was modern day in that, or if they're just trying to imply that Dr. Frankenstein is like 200 years old, because he looks exactly the same in the color portion. But yeah, and yeah, he had disassembled Frankenstein, put him into suitcases, and brought him over to this amusement park, and then reassembles him. Well, in between their shows, Alvin has his brothers go to this thing called Dragonland, and he was like really wanting to go on this ride, and they get lost in the park. The park closes for the night, and then they find their way to the castle, where they actually see Dr. Frankenstein bring the monster back to life, and he catches them and is like, "Catch them!" And he chases them through the park. They end up on the ride, on the Dragonland ride, and then they escape and everything. Theodore drops his teddy bear, and because of that, the monster. I do the same mistake everyone else does, and it's like a thing that everyone complains about. Frankenstein's the doctor. I know. If I slip up, it was an accident. Don't at me. And because of that, the monster finds the teddy bear, picks it up, and is somehow able to trace them. I don't know. It's kind of implied he sniffs them out. I don't know how that works, but anyway, he finds them, and at first, Theodore's the one that finds them, and Theodore's like the scared one, but he befriends the monster, and he convinces the other two, and this movie isn't as long as I remember. I remember it being like a full-length movie. It's only like an hour long. So it's paced nice. Like, they easily could have done it so that it all happens one after the other. But, like, it's paced, like, the monster's not actually brought back to life until, or, like, they don't, like, meet the monster until about, I would say about halfway through the film-ish. And they go on a little adventure. I mean, the whole runtime lasts about, like, it takes place over the course of maybe a day. And so, like, they manage to, they befriend the monster, and then the doctor finds out and kidnaps Alvin. And then, of course, then they go track him down. The doctor turns Alvin into a monster, and shenanigans ensues. And yeah. So there's a lot of, because it takes place in a fictionalized Universal amusement park thing, there's a bunch of fake movie titles, and some of them are like they're realistic sounding. But one of them I thought was hilarious, and I actually wrote down A Midsummer Night's Car Chase, and I saw that and I started laughing because that's funny. With all the I forget how many Alvin and the Chipmunks live action movies there are. I think 5 or 6. But I would actually, none of them are remakes. They're all original, quote unquote. They're original stories. I don't know if they're inspired by some of the classic stories, but if they were to go the Disney route and do live action remakes of any of the Alvin and the Chipmunks cartoons, I would love to see a live action remake of this one. Can you imagine it? Though I highly doubt it, because it's, like I said, it's not very well known. In fact, when I told people I was doing this one, a lot of people were like, I never even heard of that one. Well, yeah, of course you didn't. No one did. No one's heard of this one. Which means it's less likely that it's going to get a live action remake. In fact, out of all the movies I've covered on this podcast, this is the hardest one, the hardest one to find. because like I said, I keep saying I bought the last one, like the only available copy. I'm sure there's other copies out there. I mean, I doubt I bought the only DVD in the world of this movie. But, like, I was searching for, like, 2 weeks for this movie. And while there are several listings, all of them said unavailable. And this is the only one that actually had the, whenever you click tap the see other options, there were other options and there was only one. And it was a Goodwill. Somewhere. Like Missouri, I think. Or whatever. Wherever it was. So normally I would say, if you can get a hold of this movie, I suggest watching it. While I do suggest watching this one, good luck finding a copy. Because as I've stressed, there is no copy. I bought the only one. I own the only copy. Anyway, this was the first movie of the Halloween season of 2023. I actually look forward to... I always look forward to the future episodes, but, like, the movies I picked out, I'm, like, really excited for. Especially since the Halloween episode is episode 40, which means it's a double episode, and I'm really excited for the movies I picked. One of them is actually, I think I've already pointed this out in the previous episode, one of the 2 movies I'm covering for the Halloween episode, because it's a double episode, because it's episode 40, every 10th episode I had to cover 2. One of the movies is getting a limited edition 4K Blu-ray release this month, just in time, and I'm definitely going to buy it. For some reason, it's only like $35. You would think for what it is, it would be a lot more, but I'm not going to complain, because I can afford that. Anyway, I'm going to end the episode here.